Smoke curled above the burning valley like a black serpent devouring the sky. Screams and steel clashed in the distance, as the village that once sang with laughter turned into a graveyard of ash. Ilara stood among the chaos, her trembling hands covered in the dust of her people's homes, her heart pounding not with fear, but disbelief. The scent of burning wood mixed with blood, and the sky itself seemed to mourn. She had spent her life healing the wounded, tending to the sick, believing that compassion was the greatest strength of all. But now, compassion had no place here. The invaders came with iron and fire, led by the ruthless General Corin, a man known for conquering not just lands, but spirits. When they found her, she was kneeling beside a wounded child. Her soft voice, once steady, faltered as soldiers ripped the child away. "You don't need to do this," she whispered, her eyes meeting Corin's. He was a tower of iron and scar, his eyes cold as a mountain storm. "Everyone breaks," he replied simply, as if stating a law of nature. "You'll be no different." His men seized her, binding her wrists so tightly that her skin tore beneath the ropes. Yet she did not scream. Her silence enraged them. Corin ordered that she be taken alive, saying she would serve a greater purpose, a message to those who still dared to resist. They marched her for days through desolate plains, her feet raw and bloodied. The sun blazed down mercilessly, and the others who were captured stumbled and fell. Soldiers struck them down without hesitation, their bodies left for the carrion birds. Ilara watched with burning eyes, memorizing every face, every act of cruelty. Pain coursed through her like molten iron, but she did not cry. Every step became a vow, every breath a promise. They wanted her to kneel, but she would rise, even if it was the last thing she did. At dusk, when the horizon bled crimson, the Iron Valley loomed ahead. The fortress known as the Hollow Keep stood carved into the cliffs, a place where freedom went to die. It was said, no one who entered those walls ever saw the open sky again. As the gates yawned open, the stench of rust and despair filled her lungs. Chains clinked, whips cracked. The moans of prisoners echoed through the stone halls like ghosts. A soldier shoved her forward, but she did not stumble. She looked up, forcing her gaze to meet Corin's as he rode beside her on his black horse. "Still standing?" he asked, smirking. "Good. It's better when they think they're strong." That night, in the darkness of her cell, Ilara pressed her back against the cold stone and looked through the small slit in the wall where a sliver of moonlight fell. She thought of her mother's voice, gentle, firm, telling her that the soul was like water. It could bend, but never break. She closed her eyes and whispered to the shadows, "You can chain my hands, but not my will." The words felt small, fragile, but as they left her lips, something stirred within her, a flicker of defiance that even the darkness couldn't swallow. Outside, the storm gathered. Thunder rumbled across the mountains, as if the heavens themselves were angry. Raindrops slid through the cracks of her cell, falling onto her skin like tears from the sky. She lifted her face, letting them wash away the dirt and blood. For a fleeting moment, she imagined herself free again, running barefoot through the meadows of her home, her laughter echoing in the wind. Then reality returned, cold, sharp, and merciless. But so did resolve. Ilara knew that tomorrow the torment would begin. She had heard whispers from other prisoners. The ritual of obedience, a cruel practice designed to crush the human spirit. They would starve her, humiliate her, break her mind piece by piece until she became nothing more than a hollow shell. That was Corin's art. He believed that true power came not from the sword, but from the ability to make others surrender their hope. But he did not understand her kind of strength. Her power was not born from rage or pride. It came from something deeper, something ancient. The love for her people, the memory of every life she had saved, every child she had healed. That was her armor. As the wind howled through the stone corridors, she began to hum softly, a melody her mother used to sing when storms raged outside their home. It was a lullaby, but now it sounded like a battle song whispered through tears. Her voice trembled, yet it carried. Prisoners in nearby cells heard it, just a faint thread of sound. But in a place where hope was forbidden, it was enough. It reminded them that the spirit of the free still lived. When dawn broke, the guards came for her. Chains clanked around her wrists, heavy and cold. The iron bit into her flesh, but she lifted her head high. The sun rose behind her through the narrow window, setting her silhouette ablaze in gold. Corin stood at the doorway, arms crossed, his face unreadable. "Still singing?" he said. "You'll learn to stop." Alara met his gaze and answered quietly, "Only when the wind stops moving." In that moment, something shifted in the air. Corin saw it too, the kind of strength that cannot be trained, cannot be beaten, cannot be owned. He turned away, masking his unease. For the first time, the fortress built to break souls had found someone who might just break it instead. The morning began in silence, the kind that presses down like a weight, thick with dread. Alara stood in the center of the stone courtyard, wrists chained to an iron post, her ankles bound. Around her, soldiers gathered in a semicircle, their faces hidden behind helmets, eyes hungry for the spectacle to come. The ritual of obedience was about to begin. The air smelled of rain and rust. The ground beneath her bare feet was cold, rough, and smeared with traces of old blood. Somewhere deep in her chest, fear stirred, but she refused to feed it. General Coron appeared from the shadows, his black armor gleaming under the pale morning light. "You know why you're here," he said. His voice was calm, too calm, like a man explaining a lesson to a child. Every soul that comes to the Hollow Keep learns the same truth. Defiance is a disease, and pain is the cure. He motioned to his men, "Begin." The guards stepped forward. One struck her across the face. Another poured freezing water over her head, soaking her hair, her clothes, her very breath. A third soldier brought a glowing iron close to her skin, not to brand her flesh, but to remind her of what awaited if she didn't submit. Every act was deliberate, rehearsed, designed to erase dignity, to make her plead. But Alara said nothing. Her eyes, swollen and bruised, still burned with the same stubborn fire that had unsettled Corin the day before. Hours dragged on like years. They deprived her of food, of rest, of light. Her world shrank to the echo of footsteps, the sting of the whip, the scrape of chains. When they left her in darkness, she whispered to herself, "Pain is not my enemy. It's my teacher." She repeated it until it became a rhythm, like a heartbeat. Her body trembled, but her will stood unmoved. Corin watched from the shadows, his expression unreadable. He had seen many captives crumble, beg, lose themselves. But this woman, this healer, was different. Every time they struck her, she seemed to grow quieter, stronger, as if pain only stripped away her fear. He began to wonder what kind of power she drew from, what flame refused to die in her. Yet pride chained him as surely as iron bound her wrists. To show doubt was to show weakness, and Corin had built his kingdom on fear. Among the guards, one man lingered longer than the rest. Darren, young, weary-eyed, a soldier who once believed the war was for peace, but now saw only cruelty. When he brought food to Alara's cell one night, she looked up at him, not as a prisoner looks at her captor, but as one human seeing another drowning in the same sea. "Why do you stay?" she asked softly. He froze. No prisoner had ever dared speak to him like that. "Because I have nowhere else to go," he muttered. She smiled, faint but genuine. "Then you are as much a prisoner as I am." Those words struck deeper than any blade. Darren left in silence, but they followed him, echoing in his mind through every patrol, every scream he heard from the cells. Something inside him began to shift, a crack in his obedience, a flicker of shame. Meanwhile, the guards tried new torments. They locked Alara in a cold pit with no light, whispering lies through the darkness. They told her her people had forgotten her, that resistance was crushed, that she was alone. The words gnawed at her sanity. But in the stillness, she began to see visions. Her ancestors stood before her, figures of flame and mist. Her mother's voice rose among them. "Endure, my daughter. Pain is the forge of purpose." She wept then, not from despair, but from awakening. Every scar became a story, every bruise a prayer. They were not marks of defeat, they were proof of survival. She began to breathe slower, deeper, feeling each breath like a drumbeat of life. The more they sought to destroy her, the more her spirit grew beyond their reach. Corin, frustrated, ordered one last test. "Tomorrow," he said, "we strip her of everything, clothes, food, light, sound. Let her sit in silence until her own mind turns on her." His men obeyed. For 3 days and nights, Alara sat in the black void, her body weak, her throat dry. The silence pressed in, heavy and cruel. Madness lurked at the edges. But then she remembered her mother's song. With cracked lips, she began to hum, a faint, trembling melody that grew steadier with each note. The guards outside paused. They had heard screams, pleas, prayers before, but never a song. The sound was haunting, fragile, yet it reached through the stone, like light through cracks. Even Darren, standing watch, felt something stir in his chest. When Corin came to see her, expecting a hollow shell, he found her kneeling in the darkness, humming softly, her head bowed, her eyes closed. "Still singing?" he mocked. She looked up, her gaze calm and steady. "You mistake pain for power," she said quietly. "But pain reveals what power cannot destroy." For the first time, Corin had no reply. The woman before him was no longer just a prisoner. She was becoming something else, something unbreakable. That night, as he left her cell, the storm outside broke loose. Rain hammered against the stone. Lightning split the sky. The hollow keep, a place built to crush hope, trembled under the sound of her voice echoing through its corridors. Soft, defiant, alive. The nights grew longer, colder, and quieter in the hollow keep. Time had become a blur, measured not in days or weeks, but in breaths, in heartbeats, in moments of will that refused to die. Ilara sat in her dim cell, her body frail, but her eyes sharp. The bruises had faded into shadows beneath her skin, but the fire in her heart had only deepened. Every wound, every scar, had become part of a silent language of strength. The guards thought she was broken. They were wrong. She was listening to the whispers of the stones, to the rhythm of her breath, to something ancient stirring within her that no chain could silence. Her hands, though bound, still remembered the motions of healing. She began to collect small things, tiny pieces of cloth torn from her rags, a sliver of metal she had hidden under the straw, and most importantly, herbs. During the rare moments she was taken outside the cell to clean or carry water, she memorized the patterns of weeds growing in the cracks between the stones. Some were poisonous, some soothing. When the guards weren't watching, she plucked a few and hid them inside the hem of her garment. It was not escape she sought at first, it was purpose. To heal was to reclaim herself. In the cell next to hers, an old man coughed endlessly, each wheeze a reminder of decay. One night, when the guards fell asleep drunk, Ilara whispered through the cracks in the wall, "Eat the green leaf I left near the floor. It will ease your chest." The man hesitated, then obeyed. By morning, his breathing was steadier. Word began to spread quietly among the prisoners about the healer in the shadows, the woman who defied despair. It was a rebellion, small and invisible, but real. Her kindness became her defiance. Each act of compassion mocked the cruelty of her captors. Every wound she soothed, every whisper of hope she spread, was a strike against the system built to break her. Even pain, she realized, could be repurposed. It was fuel. But General Corin was not blind. He felt the shift. The prisoners no longer cowered as easily. Some even met his gaze. Hope, that forbidden seed, was growing. Furious, he ordered Ilara into isolation. No contact, he commanded. No words, no light. They dragged her to the deepest chamber beneath the fortress, a narrow pit with walls slick from centuries of damp. The door slammed shut with the sound of finality. In that darkness, she could not tell day from night. Hunger gnawed at her bones. Thirst cracked her lips. For the first time, her body began to falter. But even then, she did not surrender to despair. When fear came whispering, when loneliness pressed close like a cold hand, she did not surrender to despair. She began to hum again. Not the lullaby this time, but a tone deeper, resonant, ancient. It rose from her chest, a vibration that seemed to fill the entire cell. The sound echoed strangely. It was as if the walls themselves were humming back. Her voice merged with the air, the stone, the pulse of the earth. And in that merging, she felt something awaken inside her. A force older than pain, older than memory. The song of the unbroken, her mother had once called it. A gift from the ancestors, carried through blood and spirit. It was said that those who sang it in truth could summon strength beyond the body, resilience beyond reason. The song became her companion. Each note was a heartbeat, each breath a declaration that she was still alive, still herself. She could feel the rhythm vibrating through her bones, warming her skin, calming her trembling limbs. The hunger dulled, the fear receded. She began to see flashes of light behind her closed eyes, visions of her homeland, her people, her mother's face illuminated by firelight. One night, the guard Darren came to her cell. He was not supposed to be there. His shift had ended hours earlier. But he had heard her voice echoing faintly through the stone corridors, haunting and beautiful, and curiosity drew him in. When he opened the small grate in the cell door, he saw her kneeling in the dark, her face lifted toward the ceiling, her eyes closed, her lips moving softly. She looked less like a prisoner and more like a spirit conjuring something sacred. He spoke quietly. "What are you doing?" She did not open her eyes. "Remembering who I am." He hesitated. "They'll punish you for this." She smiled faintly. "Then, they'll have to find me first. I'm not where they think I am anymore." Darren didn't understand then, but he felt it. The shift in her presence, the quiet gravity of her will. When he left, he couldn't shake the feeling that she was no longer someone to be pitied, but someone to be followed. Days passed, and rumors began to spread again. Guards claimed the air in the lower cells felt warmer, lighter. Some swore they heard music in the night, though no one could say from where. Corin dismissed it as superstition, but unease rippled through his men. The Hollow Keep had always been a place of silence and fear. Now, there was something else, something alive. In her solitude, Elara began to weave her song into prayer, into power. She no longer asked for rescue. She asked for strength, to endure, to rise, to transform her suffering into something greater. And slowly, she realized the truth. They could take her freedom, her voice, even her body, but they could not take her essence. When the door finally opened weeks later, the guards expected a frail, broken woman. Instead, they found her standing tall, her gaze steady, her presence calm and commanding. She had not been destroyed in isolation. She had been reforged. The song of the unbroken still hummed quietly within her, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. They dragged her back into the light, but this time, the light did not blind her. It bowed to her. She had reclaimed herself, and that was the first step toward reclaiming everything they had stolen. The storm had been building all day, an uneasy growl in the heavens that seemed to mirror the unrest within the Hollow Keep. The air was thick, humming with tension, as if the fortress itself sensed that something inevitable was coming. In her cell below, Elara sat motionless, eyes half closed, breathing with deliberate calm. She could feel the storm's pulse in her veins. Each thunderclap rolled through the stone walls like a heartbeat. She had learned to listen to such signs. Nature often spoke in ways people could not. That night, the first bolt of lightning split the sky, and rain came in torrents, hammering the roof above. The guards cursed and ran for shelter as the fortress groaned under the weight of wind. Water began seeping through cracks in the ceilings, dripping down into the lower chambers where the prisoners huddled. In the chaos, routines shattered, orders blurred. For the first time in months, the rhythm of the Hollow Keep faltered. Darren was among those ordered to check the cells. When he reached Elara's door, the lock was trembling under the vibration of the storm. He hesitated, the keys cold in his shaking hand. The memory of her voice, soft, unbroken, steady, echoed in his mind. He had watched her suffer. He had delivered her rations, seen her strength, heard her hum through nights of agony. Somewhere along the way, admiration had replaced pity. Tonight, as lightning flashed and thunder roared, something inside him broke free from fear. He unlocked the door. Elara looked up, her eyes reflecting the flicker of his torch. "It's time," she said simply, as though she had been expecting him. Darren swallowed hard. "There are patrols everywhere," he whispered. "We won't make it far." She rose slowly, her movements graceful despite exhaustion. "We don't need to go far," she replied. "Only through the heart of the dark." The corridors were nearly empty. Most soldiers had retreated to the upper levels, leaving only a few scattered sentries. The storm drowned out their footsteps as Darren led her through the narrow passageways. Every corner felt like a test, every breath a gamble. Lightning illuminated the path ahead, revealing the rough tunnel that ran beneath the eastern wall. A maintenance shaft few remembered. They waded through ankle-deep water, the air sharp with the scent of metal and damp earth. Ilara's chains clinked softly with every step until Darren stopped and knelt before her. "Hold still," he said, striking the lock with a rusted hammer he had stolen from the forge. The sound echoed too loudly, but the thunder outside masked it. One last blow, and the iron split apart. Her wrists were free. She looked down at the broken chains in her hands. The cold metal gleamed under the torchlight, like trophies. "These were meant to break me," she murmured. "Now they remind me what cannot be broken." She wrapped the pieces around her forearm, not as shackles, but as armor. They moved again, faster this time, but as they neared the exit, the echo of boots rang through the tunnel. Corin's voice cut through the storm, a cold, commanding tone that carried even through the thunder. "Stop them!" The guards swarmed from the shadows. Darren drew his sword, his face pale but determined. "Go," he shouted. "Find the gate." Ilara turned, her heart pounding. She didn't want to leave him, but she knew what he was giving her, a chance at freedom. She ran. The storm blinded her with rain, soaked her to the bone, but she kept moving. When she reached the outer gate, lightning lit the valley beyond, the world she had dreamed of through iron bars. She pushed against the massive door, but it wouldn't budge. Behind her, Corin's voice came again, closer now. "You think you can escape what you are? You belong to this place." Ilara turned, her wet hair clinging to her face, her chest rising and falling. "No," she said, voice steady despite the wind. "I belong to myself." The lightning struck again, this time hitting the outer wall with a deafening crack. Stone splintered, and part of the gate gave way. She forced her way through the gap, the wind howling around her, like 1,000 voices crying for freedom. As she stumbled into the open valley, rain washing over her skin, she fell to her knees and lifted her face to the sky. The storm was no longer an enemy. It was a reflection of her. The chaos, the fury, the cleansing. Behind her, the fortress loomed, dark and trembling under the wrath of the heavens. She knew she could keep running, disappear into the forests and mountains, vanish forever. But the vision she had seen in the silence of her cell came back to her now, her mother's voice, calm and clear. "You are not running away, my daughter. You are rising." Those words rooted her to the earth. Freedom was not the end of her journey. It was the beginning of her purpose. Others still suffered behind those walls. Others had forgotten what it meant to hope. She could not leave them. When dawn broke, the storm eased. The valley steamed under the touch of early light. Darren had survived, battered and bleeding, and found her sitting by the river that wound through the valley floor. "You came back," he said, almost in disbelief. She nodded, her gaze distant but fierce. "We can't just escape. We have to end it." He followed her eyes toward the fortress on the horizon, smoke curling from its towers. The hollow keep looked smaller now, just another scar on the land. For the first time, he saw it not as an unbreakable prison, but as something that could fall. Elara stood, wrapping her torn cloak around her shoulders. The chains on her arm glinted like silver in the sunrise. "We will return," she said quietly, not as captives, but as the storm itself. The wind carried her words across the valley, merging them with the echoes of thunder fading in the distance. She had stepped through fear, through pain, through the illusion of power, and on the other side, she had found herself. The storm had not destroyed her, it had baptized her, and now she was ready to bring that storm back to where it began. The sun bled through the horizon, like fire spilling over the edge of the world. Smoke rose from distant hills, painting the morning in shades of ash and gold. Elara stood upon the ridge, overlooking the valley where her homeland once thrived. The wind tugging at her cloak, her hair whipping across her face. The land bore scars, blackened fields, burned villages, and graves that had no names. Yet beneath the ruin, life still pulsed faintly. Somewhere, hidden in the ruins and forests, her people endured. She had not come home to mourn. She had come to ignite something greater than herself. Darren stood beside her, his armor dented and dull from the storm that had nearly taken their lives. He looked toward the horizon, uneasy. "You really mean to go back there?" he asked. "They'll hunt you the moment they realize you've returned." Elara's gaze did not waver. "Let them." Her voice carried no anger, only certainty. "They built their power on fear. It's time they see what happens when fear turns into fire." She spent the following days traveling from one ruined settlement to another, gathering those who had survived, the old, the broken, the exiled, farmers who had lost their crops, mothers who had lost their sons, soldiers who had deserted after witnessing too much blood. Some recognized her at once. Stories of the woman who could not be broken had already spread like whispered prayer across the valley. Others looked at her with doubt, too used to disappointment to believe in legends. One night, she stood before them all in the ruins of the great hall of her childhood village. The roof was half collapsed, moonlight spilling through like threads of silver. She spoke quietly, her words simple but fierce. "They wanted to break me," she said, "and in their cruelty, they taught me something they will never understand. Strength does not come from power, it comes from pain survived. They gave us pain, now we will turn it into strength." A hush followed. Then, slowly, one man stepped forward, placing his hand over his heart. Another followed. Then, a dozen. Then the crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in silent unity, a collective vow burning in their eyes. Over the next weeks, they rebuilt what they could. They trained with whatever weapons they could find. Rusted blades, farm tools, stones. Elara taught them to move like shadows, to strike where the enemy was weakest. But she taught them more than tactics. She taught them purpose. "You are not fighting to destroy," she told them. "You are fighting to remind the world that no one owns the human spirit." Darren became her right hand, leading the scouts, mapping enemy patrols. At night, around campfires, he would watch her speak to the frightened and the weary, her voice calm and steady. "You've turned into something else," he said one night, his voice low. "Not a prisoner, not even a warrior. Something more." Elara smiled faintly, I am what pain made me, and now pain will serve me. When word reached Corin that she was alive and raising an army, fury consumed him. He saw it as an insult, an affront to his authority. He ordered his legions to march at dawn, confident that her rebellion would crumble like dust before his iron. But what he didn't understand was that Ilara's army was not built on numbers or fear. It was built on faith. The two forces met in the Valley of Crows, beneath a sky heavy with storm clouds. The ground trembled as Corin's army advanced, a wave of steel and banners. Ilara stood at the front of her small band of rebels, her cloak billowing, her eyes calm. The chains she had once worn around her wrists now hung from her belt like emblems of victory. As the wind howled and the first drops of rain began to fall, she raised her voice so that all could hear. They took everything from us, our homes, our families, our freedom. But they forgot one thing. She paused, letting her words cut through the wind. You can cage a body, but not a soul. Her people shouted, the cry of the unbroken rolling across the field like thunder. When the clash came, it was chaos. Mud, blood, and steel colliding. Yet her warriors fought, not with hatred, but with conviction. Darren moved through the ranks like a storm himself, his blade flashing. Ilara fought beside him, her every strike a promise fulfilled, every motion fluid, guided by something beyond instinct, a force born of every moment of pain she had endured. When the battle reached its fiercest point, Corin's soldiers began to falter. They were trained to dominate the fearful, not to face those who no longer feared death. Ilara's people pressed forward, their battle cries echoing against the mountains. The enemy's formation broke, panic spreading through their ranks. Corin, enraged, rode into the fray, cutting down his own men to restore order. His black armor gleamed beneath flashes of lightning, his sword dripping red. He saw Ilara through the storm, her figure unmistakable. You should have stayed in the dark, he shouted. Ilara turned to face him, her eyes burning. I did, she answered, and I brought the light with me. They met in the heart of the storm, sword against chain, strength against will. Each strike echoed like thunder, each clash a collision of two worlds, one built on control, the other on freedom. By the time the storm began to clear, Corin's army was in retreat. The rebels, battered but alive, stood victorious. Ilara's people gathered around her, soaked, bleeding, trembling, but free. She looked to the rising dawn through the clearing mist, her chest heaving. The valley that had once been silent was alive again, with hope, with breath, with renewal. She stood tall, her chains glinting in the morning light, and whispered, "They tried to destroy me, but they only taught me how to fight." Her words carried across the valley, mingling with the cries of her people. She was no longer the prisoner of the hollow keep. She was the storm reborn, the flame that could never be extinguished. The valley was quiet after the battle, eerily quiet, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. Smoke curled into the pale morning sky, drifting above the wreckage of what had been a field of war. Bodies lay scattered across the mud, steel glinting in the first light of dawn. The scent of rain and blood mixed into something both heavy and sacred. Ilara stood among it all, her cloak torn, her hands trembling, her face streaked with ash. Around her, her people gathered in silence, waiting, not for orders, but for something deeper. The storm had passed, but another still raged within her. She looked down at the chains still wrapped around her forearm. symbols of pain turned to power, and felt the weight of everything that had come before. She had fought not for revenge, but for release. Yet she knew that true freedom was more than the breaking of shackles. It was the refusal to become what had once enslaved you. From the distance, the sound of hooves echoed faintly. General Corin was not dead. He rode slowly through the smoke, wounded but unbroken, his black armor cracked and splattered with mud. The soldiers that remained parted for him, unsure whether to flee or bow. He dismounted, his sword dragging through the dirt as he approached her. The air between them was heavy, charged with everything unsaid. "So it ends like this," he said, his voice rough, low. "The healer becomes the conqueror." Elara's eyes met his. They were calm, steady, filled not with hatred, but with something far more dangerous: clarity. "I never wanted to conquer," she said softly, "only to be free." Corin's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Freedom," he spat, "a word for the naive. The world belongs to those strong enough to take it." She stepped closer, her chain glinting in the light. "You confuse strength with cruelty," she said. "But cruelty is the weapon of the weak. You ruled through fear because you were afraid. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of being forgotten." He raised his sword, anger flashing in his eyes. "You think you understand power?" She didn't move. Lightning cracked far off in the distance, the echo rumbling through the valley like the memory of war. Corin lunged, his sword flashing toward her heart. But Elara moved with quiet precision, her chain wrapping around his arm, twisting the blade from his grip. With a single fluid motion, she brought him to his knees. The crowd gasped. Corin looked up at her, breathing hard, fury and disbelief in his eyes. "Do it," he hissed. "Finish it." For a moment, time seemed to stop. The sun broke through the clouds, painting the scene in gold. Elara stood above him, her chest rising and falling, the chain taut in her hand. She could end it now, end the man who had tried to destroy her, who had burned her village, who had stolen so much. The fire inside her urged her to strike. But another voice rose, quieter, deeper. The voice of her mother, her ancestors, her own spirit. "If you kill him, you become him." She released the chain. It fell into the mud with a dull sound. Corin looked up, stunned. "Why?" Elara's voice was calm, almost tender. "Because mercy is a power you will never understand. I will not carry your darkness inside me." He stared at her, as if seeing her for the first time, not as an enemy, but as something beyond his comprehension. Slowly, he lowered his head. The soldiers who had once obeyed his every word now looked to her instead. The woman who had been captured to be broken had become the symbol of something greater, the proof that the human spirit, once awakened, could not be subdued. As the sun rose higher, Elara turned to her people. "It's over," she said, "but the world we build next will be different. We cannot free ourselves by becoming the same monsters who caged us." Her words spread through the crowd like wind over fire. Some wept, some knelt, others simply stood still.